Emergency kickoff meeting. Welcome back to the kickoff. I'm joined by Joey, Josh, and KG. As Joey and Josh went into meltdown late last night as Chelsea lost their manager. Just after, Joey's sitting on the kickoff saying that Poch might be a shout for a contender next season as one of the managers of the season. Immediate reaction, boys. Let's go with you, Joey. How are you feeling?
Shocked, literally completely shocked. I had no idea that this was coming. We were always told that there was going to be a meeting at the end of the season, but typically in football, if something like this is going to happen, you're expecting it to happen, say, for example, after the 5-0 defeat to Arsenal, after the 4-1 loss at Anfield, even after the 4-1 loss at your place, St James's Park. It never came when we were expecting it to. So for it to come off the back of 5 wins, 6 really good performances, by the way, if you include the Aston Villa draw, if it was sort of one high profile win, say we had gone and got a win over Man City, but the rest of the form hadn't been great, I could sort of understand it. But I don't think that anyone can deny when you get 5 wins on the bounce and you're playing good football, clearly some sort of corner had been turned. So for it to happen now just puts more and more of a border between us and the board itself, because clearly the fan base are not on the same page as the board.
Do you feel that as well, Josh, that there's a disconnect there? Because it felt like the fan base had finally gotten on board with Poch now.
Mate, I'm really surprised that the fan base hasn't gone even more ballistic than it has to. I've been seeing polls, by the way, that are still like 80% Poch in, like 75% Poch in, like all over Twitter, by the way. And so it's quite clear where the fan base are at this stage. Like the fan base really wanted this guy to continue. We saw the sort of light at the end of the tunnel. We saw progression and momentum at the end of the season, and we thought it was going to go into next season. Joe and I are sat here doing our podcast, talking on all about Chelsea, saying we're going to be right up there. We've never been happier, honestly, as Chelsea fans in the last 2 or 3 years. And then we get a bombshell like this. It came out of nowhere. Didn't think it was going to be on Tuesday night. We thought it might be towards the end of the week. Pochettino said he was going to be sticking around London and then going on his holidays. Mate, it just came completely out of the blue. And that's why we're all so shocked. It just felt so sudden and so abrupt. It didn't feel connected to the season. And yet, saying that, there were moments towards the end of the season where you then look back on it now and you're going, oh, actually, do you know what? There were some signs there that we weren't quite sure on. There were some weird things, like at the end of the season, you know, they do the parades and they do the speeches. No Poch speech. In the programme notes, there was no mention of Mauricio Pochettino at all. There were some weird things going on. And like, even his press conference at the end of the season, like it didn't see it. There was something weird about that. Like he was talking.
Didn't he make a joke about getting sacked or something?
Oh, mate, he said so many things. I mean, he made a joke about going to dinner with Todd Boehly and we had a lovely time. Mate, honestly, give me 10 minutes about that dinner. Yeah, but give me 10 minutes about that Todd Boehly dinner. Like, Todd Boehly, I think, was very much Pochettino. I think he's taken him out for dinner. I think he's apologised to him. I think he said, look, I've been overruled here. I don't agree with this. Let me take you out for a swanky meal to apologise. Because quite frankly, he seemed like he was his guy. He did a press conference the other day in the United States, by the way, where he was saying, we need to talk about patience. We need to talk about having a progression in a squad. We need to talk about how
who did this press conference? Was that
Boehly? Todd Boehly. And then 3 days later, he sacks the manager.
What does it say, though, when your own CEO, like the gaffer of the club, is saying things that aren't aligning with the direction of the club? Like, even under Mike Ashley at Newcastle, we knew where we stood. At the very least, there was a clear direction of what was going to happen. The fact that your own gaffer, you can't even trust the words he's saying, well, who the hell's controlling this club then?
Who's the gaffer? Todd Boehly owns 30%. Who is the gaffer? We got Bernard Al-Bali.
That's exactly it, though, isn't it? Like, as the time has gone on, we've progressively started to realise that we were sold this vision of Todd Boehly coming in and running Chelsea. Todd Boehly's involvement is minimal. He doesn't come to games. He was coming to games at the start. He now doesn't really come to games. He used to be hand in hand with Eghbali. Him and Eghbali famously marched across the Stamford Bridge pitch to go and give Raheem Sterling a bollocking after he hadn't scored against a relegation threatened team or something last season. And now all of a sudden, you do not see Todd Boehly and Eghbali together. You don't hear them talk about each other. They are very much separate entities in Chelsea right now.
And when you
You know what's crazy about Chelsea? And because I called Josh, as soon as this thing happened, I said, I just got to call a Chelsea fan right now. And we need to understand what's going on.
Who needs enemies,
what is it? What is this? No, because think about it. Next season, if Man City are going to get a points deduction, Chelsea would be one of the best teams.
Which they are, KG. 20 to 1 to go down, KG. Put your bets on now, boys. 20 to 1 for Man City to go down.
Been slashed again.
Gone from 33 to 1 yesterday.
Yeah.
I'll definitely say,
I think you can always judge how a club's moves by how the opposition around them are feeling about it. And like, obviously Newcastle and Man United finish right around Chelsea. I don't know about you, KG, but them lot were starting to turn a corner a bit. I think we're probably pretty happy about this.
Really happy. This is the thing. So, because you lot know how I feel about, you know how I feel about Jacob's team, innit? So then I was like, well, they're the best position. I don't have any ill feelings towards Chelsea. What the hell's going on? Why have you lot made such a weird move? But then you're really understanding that Todd Bowley, it's a consortium. Todd Bowley's come in and they said, you know what, to make the Chelsea fans feel better, let's tell them this is their new Roman Abramovich. So he's come in and he's the face of this consortium. Well, guess what happens? The first season, he goes crazy, starts buying all mad players and stuff, and then he lost the hope and the faith of the people that are on the consortium with him. They said, big man, you're going over here, we're going to move this club forward. And what you're now looking at is they just elected the next person to stand in, because he had a meeting with Poch not too long ago. Like, they had the dinner, and I heard there was another dinner a few days later with this guy that you're mentioning now. And he's going to be the main guy running things going forward. He's going to be the face of the club. It's mental. It's running like the WWE.
Is there a possibility? Is there a possibility, gents? And speaking of the Chelsea fans specifically here, we always talk about what a club should do. And earlier this season, if someone had said, we've already seen enough from Poch, it's not good enough, we've made one mind up now, even if he turns it around, we've made one mind up. Some people would have said, if when you hear pundits on TV, they go, don't say anything, just tread water, keep things business as usual. At the end of the season, then you sack them. Some people might argue that they've done things here in the proper way. Would you say that that's a fair or disagree that?
I don't think in any form of life you can treat relationships like that. Like, if you had a girlfriend and you're planning on splitting up with her, don't go round there one last time for a bit of, you know what, it's going to end in tears. If we were planning on splitting up with Pochettino, we should have done it when he gave us the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Because what they've then done is they've then let Pochettino get his feet under the table, start to put out some of the fires, start to actually get a squad that is in his image. That's the key thing. We spent the entire season having not a clue what we were going to get from Chelsea. He
made a believer out of you specifically, Joy.
Yeah. Out of me even towards the end of the season, because I had turned on it and I sort of felt to myself like, right, okay, I'm not going to scream from the rooftops about wanting this guy out, but I also don't really want him in. And towards the end of the season, I really, really started to see patterns of play. I really, really started to see an identity to the team. So, and again, this is another thing we say about making rival fans sort of cautious of our next move. Let's say, for example, when we go out and sign £100 million player, right? We all know that this could go wrong. This could be really bad. But until it goes wrong, I think if you're a rival fan and you see Chelsea go and sign a Caicedo, I think there's going to be that part of you that thinks, oh, this could go well for them. This guy could improve them. I don't think there is a rival fan of a Premier League club right now who is looking at the dismissal of Pochettino and thinking, oh, we need to worry about Chelsea next season. It's done the opposite.
Yeah.
What do you lads think about the players? Because there's some players there, for example, I see was it Enzo, a couple of them who've played under however many umpteen managers already in such a short space of time. There was a lot of social media posts, particularly Cole Palmer. You really should care about what your main players are posting about a manager going out the door. That should matter. What did you make of all the social posts, lads?
I don't think they care about what anyone thinks, to be honest with you. I don't think those sporting directors give a shit about what we think as fans. fans. So that's very clear because the fans want him to stay. I don't think they care about, what the players want. The players said that this guy was one of the best man managers they've ever dealt with. That's quotes from like quite a few different players, and they all really appreciated him.
Yeah.
A
Cole
lot of
Palmer
players
said,
got better.
you made my dreams come true.
Yeah,
Wow.
That is a hell of a line.
Wow.
Exactly. And we were talking about this yesterday. We were going, Jackson's got better, Caicedo's got better, Cucurella's got better, Gallagher's got better, Gusto's got better. Even Cole Palmer has improved throughout the season. We could go on. And do you know what? This was funny, actually, because I remember on the kickoff, we were saying that, has he improved players? And now the answer is, yes, he has improved players. So to sort of do it in this moment now, when the momentum was there, we were all improving as a squad. All of the players were actually building. We were actually going for the moment where, we've got a squad of young players, but now they're young players that are improving and they're going to the next level of their careers. To rip that out, it feels super weird. But as I said,
do you think it's a standards thing, lads? Do you think this is a simple case of 6 at the start of the season would have been seen as a bare minimum for the outlay and for the level of coach that they thought they were getting, and he's just not met the standards, and for that reason, you're sacked?
No, because otherwise, why would they have chosen the words that they chose to go with all season when they were talking about patience and trust in the process and building around a manager? It's very clear to anyone who has watched Chelsea at all and watched the business that we do this season what has happened, right? Pochettino has had his demands and the board have said to him, you are not going to get those. So now you need to make the decision whether you want to be here or not. And if you can't move forward, and by the way, these demands, right? They're not Pochettino saying, I want 100 million to spend on another midfield pivot. They're not Pochettino saying, I want you to go and get Osimhen and pay double the price if you need to. They're Pochettino going, lads, these 2 players I've used this season, Trevor Chalobah, Conor Gallagher, they've been really, really good for me. They're really key in the dressing room. I'd love it if we kept hold of them. Can we look at maybe moving on some of the players that I don't fancy so much? That would have been what it is. It doesn't take a genius to work this out. And then what you've got to think is this, right? If the board's vision does not align with the fans, there's not that much we can do about that, right? We're sort of stuck in this situation. And, if we're going on the track record of your own club, Brian, we might be in this situation for a long time. But to hear that the manager's vision aligns with the fans, i.e., I do want a couple of 25-plus-year-olds in there. I do want to keep hold of Conor Gallagher and Trevor Chalobah, and I don't want you to go mad in this transfer window. That's music to our ears. That's what
they've already done it as well. They've already gone in and put there's this young Brazilian that they're bringing in that's supposed to be 70 million or something odd. Dastavio. Again, they're saying that he's like a big player, amazing player, but then the issues that you could tell Poch was having is there's just too many players in the team. And he can't even do it. I remember that presser when he said they named the player that he had 2 players, and he said who? And that same player, that's it, Malang Sarr, and that same players liked the post of him being leaving the club. So you can tell now.
He could piss right off, mate. He's on more than Cole Palmer, KG.
This is what I'm saying.
Cole Palmer, that
Jesus.
So he could piss off.
When it comes to bringing in a new manager, they've been linked with, even the young lad who's just come up from the Championship, McKenna.
Go on, Kieran.
It doesn't look like it's inspiring joy very much, yeah.
Do you know how many times this season I've been at Stamford Bridge and heard the fans saying they want Kieran McKenna in? None. No one knows who he is.
I feel like because they're clearly wanting a yes man type manager, that they may look for a younger man because he's easier to keep control of as opposed to someone like Poch.
Yeah, and also I think that when you sort of list out the accolades and the achievements, proven winners have got too much behind them to be able to stand this sort of nonsense. Whereas possibly a Kieran McKenna, for example, and nothing against Kieran McKenna, he's done a great job, but possibly a Kieran McKenna, for example, might be more someone in the mould that you would be able to just say, these are your tools. I don't care if they're not the tools for the job. You run with it. And that's why we're now seeing Kieran McKenna, so Enzo from Leicester, the manager from Leicester, I don't really know what the connection is there. Personally, I have actually watched a lot of Leicester this season. They've been all right, but they've got the highest wage salary of any team that has ever been in the Championship in the whole existence of the league. You would want that team to win that league. So when you can look at that and you can go, well, he's a Pep Guardiola man. He used to be the assistant coach to Pech. And if we look at Arteta, yes, brilliant. But we can also, and I'm not trying to banter here, we can also look at Ten Hag. He was Pep's assistant. It doesn't necessarily mean all that much. But the be-all and end-all is this here, and this could age like milk. I've heard that the deal's already done and it's De Zerbi.
I believe, I was going to say, guys,
okay.
I was going to say that I actually do believe it's De Zerbi. Again, you bought in Jewel, he's come in, you've literally tried to do Brighton 2.0, and the difference is, at De Zerbi, like, he's almost felt this, but in a negative way, where he's had a situation when, at Brighton, they'd sell anyone. He have no say on who goes out the door. At least in this situation at Chelsea, well, he has no say who's coming in, but at least he's got good players in. So he still hasn't got a say, but he can still get.
Josh doesn't look impressed.
What happens
Josh just put his head on a microphone. I take it you're not a fan of De Zerbi, Josh.
Mate, I honestly never want to deal with Brighton again. Can we just draw a line over it and just say we don't want to deal with it? Like De Zerbi, mate, like he hasn't finished very well in the Premier League, has he? He hasn't had a great breakout season. Like all of the options we're considering are either championship managers or managers that have failed. And the one thing that we all said on the kickoff was that Chelsea need a manager that has won things, that has been there, done it, dealt with things at the top level, and probably wouldn't be a yes man. And do you know what? The board have gone, now, do you know what? We want to not only do the wonder kid thing on the pitch, we want to do the wonder kid thing in the management role. And De Zerbi, if you actually think about it, De Zerbi is probably the most qualified option out of all of the other options that we're looking at. Because let's be honest, Tommy T isn't coming back. You know, Jose isn't going to come back. So he's the most qualified. But what has he won? Like, you guys gave us so much banter about Pochettino. At least Pochettino's won a French Cup. At least he's been in the Champions League final. This guy, honestly...
You lot were saying a lot of good stuff about De Zerbi on the kickoff, though. That's the only thing, because when I was trying to get them manager ratings of the year...
Not me.
All right, we have to look at
that might have been me in terms of... I was defending him a little bit because I feel like De Zerbi was able to provably improve players and do a good job coaching, but he had so many of them ripped away from him that when people say he's done a shit job this season, I'm like, fuck me. That the amount of good players he's lost, I don't think he could have had a good season. I don't think that was possible. So I do give him a little bit of leeway. And to be fair, he is very highly rated by other top managers, but sometimes Pep does Big Brother people and goes like, oh, he's a great manager where he's like, he's not a threat. I don't really give a shit. But I think that Poch at times really did deserve to lose his job last season, and at times there was times where both Joey and Josh came into that studio and I thought, fuck me, they've really had enough now. So Poch was lucky to stay as long as he did, and yes, he did turn it around at the end. But I actually think that it as frustrated as Chelsea fans have a right to be right now, De Zerbi may, with much better talent, do some special things with that team. That is possible.
I don't rule out the possibility that Chelsea get better next season. I think these things can often happen. I remember when Roberto Martinez left Swansea, and I remember the next season they get in Michael Laudrup and lift their first bit of silverware in it possibly ever, God knows how long. I remember with every Brighton manager, for example, when Chris Hughton left, they didn't think they were going to level up. They got Graham Potter in. When he left, they thought it was all doom and gloom. They got De Zerbi and finished even higher. So sometimes you can get rid of managers when maybe the fan base don't necessarily think it's justified, and it can prove to be the right answer. My gut feeling here is that even if it does prove to be the right answer and we're better next year, I think it's a fluke. I think this board have not got a fucking clue what they are doing.
Do you agree, Josh?
Do you? Well, look, mate, I'm going through my head right now.
Can't
I'm
put
going
it
to
as
say this.
articulate as that.
I'm going to say there's a scenario where Pochettino goes to Man United. I think that could happen.
He wants
and I
that
think
job.
there's a scenario in which Man United finish higher than Chelsea as a result of that move. And that would be
He wants that job. He wants that job. That's the one thing that, like, Poch leaving is strange anyway, but Poch has wanted the Man United job his whole life. When he said gardening leave with Spurs when he was going to win them the Champions League, that would have been almost like a step down in a sense. If you're about to win the Champions League, but you still want to leave for the Man United job, then after, like, Ollie just wouldn't stop, like, winning games in a way. Like, he would, just save himself.
Let's put this on you, KG.
Yeah.
Let's put this on you, though. Right now, and let's just ditch your sort of allegiance to Ten Hag for a second here. Pochettino,
he can't do that. He can't do that.
Pochettino finished higher than Ten Hag. And at the start of the season, I kind of was edging towards Man United because they had the more proven, more mature Premier League players, and it didn't work out like that. If you had the choice between the two now, who would give you more hope for next season?
What, between Poch and TT or Eric Ten Hag?
I can tell already. It's Poch, isn't it? It is Poch, isn't it? Admit it. I can tell, innit? Because right now, if you switch Ten Hag now, there'd be a feeling of like Pochettino. He did all right with Chelsea. This is
the thing. So people, it's well documented. You know, when someone a podcast uses well documented, you know he's about to chat some shit. It's well documented that I really wanted Poch before Ten Hag came in. I was excited about the Poch thing. Now I'm going.
Well then, you're allowed then.
No, wait, hold on. I'm getting on it's the FA Cup because, guys, I told you, lot, if I walk back into that kickoff studio with an FA Cup in hand, this is my manager till the cows come home. I'm telling you right now. So, and I can't wait. So it's FA Cup.
But if you lose the FA Cup,
Poch.
It's Poch in.
All right, or Tuchel. I don't mind. I want to know from these two who's the better manager. But yeah, one of the two of them.
Tommy's the better manager.
One last thing I would like to ask you, Brian. Have you seen the reports of who Chelsea could be targeting?
Eddie Howe, mate. Do you know what? I'm not taking it seriously because, and this is the one thing I would say about Chelsea right now from the outside looking in, they look more of a basket case football club than they ever have.
Yeah.
And if you're Eddie Howe, as much as Chelsea are a great football club, you could stay at Newcastle and potentially be here for another 2, 3, 4 years comfortably. I feel like the chances of keeping your job are higher at Newcastle. At Chelsea, you're looking at it thinking, if I get longer than a year, I'll be lucky. So for that reason, as great as a Chelsea football club is, I just think it's too much of a risk for him to take that job.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say the same. I'd say very rarely does a manager leave Stamford Bridge with his reputation enhanced. Possibly you could say Pochettino has, but I think if Eddie Howe was to stay at Newcastle for another 2-3 seasons, I don't see them falling out of the top 8 sides, I'd say.
I actually think Poch was almost leaving on a decline, and he sort of saved it at the end. Poch is very lucky they didn't sack him after the Arsenal game.
Yes.
His reputation would have been in tatters at that moment.
But then you lot are missing something out, though, because I would say that Eddie Howe could be on some level of borrowed time as well. So if you're going to get sacked from a club, well, at least get sacked from a club that's got a lot of money, a lot of good players, because to Newcastle fans, they're not going to have another bad season with this guy. They want to do something next season. There's not going to be no excuses about injuries, this, that, and the other. So I'd think that if he's going to roll the dice,
they're not going to give him up though. You know what Newcastle are like? We don't give our assets up easily. You know that more than anyone, KJ. He'll Gordon leave.